Mr. Henderson felt a soft, happy hum inside him as he settled deeper into his big, comfy chair. It wasn't just any chair, it was his chair, a giant, squishy friend covered in faded blue fabric that felt like a warm hug. It had wide arms that were perfect for holding books or, like today, a tall glass. The chair had been with him for many, many years, almost like another person in the house, always ready to welcome him after a long day or simply for a quiet moment. Its cushions were a little lumpy in places, but those lumps were just right for his shape, like they had learned exactly where he needed the most comfort. When he sat down, the chair let out a soft sigh, a gentle creak that sounded like it was happy to have him back. Today was one of those days that felt made for sitting. The sun peeked through the window, not too bright, not too hot, but just warm enough to kiss his skin. It made soft, shiny squares on the wooden floor, dancing a little when a light breeze rustled the leaves outside. Mr. Henderson watched the dust mote sparkle and drift in the sunlight, tiny specks of magic floating in the air. He didn't think about work or worries. He didn't think about anything big or hard. He just thought about how nice it was to be right where he was, in that exact moment. In his hand, he held a tall glass. It was cool to the touch, and little drops of water slowly ran down its sides, making tiny, wet trails. Inside, ice cubes floated like clear, shiny islands in a sea of pale yellow liquid. He had made it himself, fresh lemonade, just the way he liked it. Not too sweet, not too sour, but perfectly balanced. When he moved the glass, the ice cubes clinked together with a soft, happy sound, like tiny bells ringing. He brought the glass to his lips and took a slow, deep sip. The cold liquid felt so good, sliding down his throat and making him feel refreshed all the way to his toes. He could taste the bright lemon and a hint of sweetness that made his tongue tingle in a pleasant way. He closed his eyes for a moment, letting the taste linger. This was peace. This was what he worked for, what he sometimes dreamed of when things were busy. A moment just for him, to simply be. He remembered when he first got the recipe for this lemonade. It was from an old friend, years ago, and he'd kept it secret, making it only for himself or very special guests. Each time he made it, it reminded him of good times and simple joys. The glass itself was thick and sturdy, one of a set his sister had given him for his birthday a long time ago. It felt solid and comforting in his hand, a little heavy, but just right. He opened his eyes and looked around his living room. It was a cozy room, filled with things he loved. Bookshelves lined one wall, packed with stories and adventures waiting to be read. A soft rug, patterned with gentle blues and greens, lay on the floor, feeling warm under his feet. On a small table next to his chair, there was a tiny, smooth stone he had found on a beach trip, a picture of his dog, Buster, when Buster was just a puppy, and a half-finished crossword puzzle. He hadn't even looked at the crossword today, which showed just how relaxed he was. Usually, he loved to solve puzzles, but today, his mind was as calm and clear as the sky outside. The only sounds were the soft ticking of an old clock on the mantelpiece and the gentle rustle of leaves from the tree outside his window. No loud noises, no ringing phones, no urgent voices. Just quiet. He liked quiet. Quiet helped him think, or, like today, helped him not think much at all, just feel. He took another sip of his lemonade, holding the glass carefully. He liked how the cold spread through his fingers, a pleasant chill that felt good on a warm day. He thought about the ice melting slowly, turning his drink a little less strong, a little more watery, but still good. It was a quiet process, like everything else around him. He leaned his head back against the soft cushion of his chair, feeling the fabric give just a little. He could feel the small dips and bumps in the cushion that perfectly fit his head. It was like the chair knew him, knew how he liked to sit, knew how he liked to relax. He had spent so many hours in this chair, reading stories, listening to music, watching the seasons change outside his window. It was a place where he felt safe and happy. He remembered one time, a long time ago, when he was very worried about something. He had sat in this very chair, and slowly, as the hours passed, the worries had seemed to shrink, becoming smaller and less scary. The chair had a way of making everything feel a little better. Today, there were no worries to shrink. Only peace to enjoy. He lifted the glass again, watching the light catch the ice, making it sparkle like tiny diamonds. He took another sip, savoring the cool, sweet tart taste. The world outside seemed to spin a little faster, with people rushing here and there, but in his chair, in his room, time seemed to slow down. Each moment stretched out, long and gentle, like a lazy cat napping in the sun. He breathed in slowly, then out, feeling his chest rise and fall. Each breath was deep and easy. He felt the gentle thrum of his own heart, a steady, quiet beat. Everything was just right. He thought about the small garden he had outside, full of bright flowers and busy bees. He thought about the warm loaf of bread he had bought this morning from the bakery down the street. Simple things. Good things. He smiled a little to himself. This was happiness, he decided. Not big, flashy happiness, but a quiet, deep kind of happiness that settled in your bones. He adjusted his grip on the glass, making sure it was safe and steady in his hand. The glass was almost half empty now, and the ice cubes were smaller, more rounded at the edges. He knew he would finish it soon, and maybe, just maybe, he would make another one. Or maybe he would just close his eyes again and enjoy the silence. He had all the time in the world. He felt completely, utterly, and wonderfully calm. His hand, holding the cool glass, was steady and sure. The sun was more than just a light today, it was like a kind, warm friend peeking into Mr. Henderson's living room. Its golden rays poured through the big window, not in a harsh, bright way that made him squint, but in a soft, gentle glow. It was the kind of sunlight that made everything feel cozy and safe. The light spread across the wooden floor like a giant, shimmering blanket, making the dust motes dance and sparkle as if they were tiny, happy fairies floating in the air. Each tiny speck caught the light, shining for a moment before drifting off, like little secrets the sun was sharing. This sunlight didn't just light up the room, it warmed it. Mr. Henderson could feel the gentle heat on his skin, a soft touch on his cheek and the back of his hands where they rested on the arms of his chair. It wasn't hot like summer noon, but warm like a good hug on a cool morning. It made the air feel light and fresh even though he was inside. He watched as the sunlight painted patterns on the wall. First, it was just a bright square, but as the sun moved slowly across the sky, the square changed shape. It stretched, then narrowed, and then the shadows of the tree branches outside started to show through. They looked like delicate, moving drawings, swaying gently as a soft breeze played with the leaves. He found himself watching these moving patterns, a small smile playing on his lips. It was like a silent, beautiful show just for him. The bright light made the colors in his room seem richer, too. The faded blue of his comfy chair looked a little brighter, a little more alive. The green leaves of his houseplant on the windowsill looked even greener, full of life. And the old, colorful rug on the floor, with its gentle blues and greens, seemed to glow from within. Everything in his peaceful room felt happy under the sun's gaze. It made him feel like the room itself was smiling, sharing in his quiet joy. He often thought of his living room as a safe haven, a little island of calm in a busy world, and the sunlight today made it feel even more like that. He took another slow sip of his lemonade, the cool drink a perfect match for the sun's gentle warmth. The ice in his glass caught the light, turning into tiny, sparkling jewels that glinted as he moved his hand. He watched the light play on the surface of the lemonade, making little golden ripples that danced and shimmered. It was such a simple thing, this sunlight, but it brought him so much peace. He didn't need anything fancy or loud to feel good, just this quiet moment, his comfy chair, his refreshing drink, and the bright, friendly sun. His mind felt as clear and open as the bright sky outside. He wasn't thinking about big plans or tough decisions. He was just thinking about the small, lovely things. How the warmth felt on his skin. How the light made the dust sparkle. How the lemonade tasted just right. He listened to the soft sounds around him, the gentle tick-tock of the old clock, the faraway chirping of a bird, and the whisper of the breeze through the leaves. Each sound was soft and peaceful, blending together to make a gentle song for his quiet afternoon. He closed his eyes again for a moment, letting the warmth of the sun soak into him. He felt it on his eyelids, a soft orange glow behind them. It made him feel like he was being hugged by the sun, a warm, comforting hug that chased away any tiny bit of leftover worry. When he opened his eyes, the world seemed even brighter and more beautiful. He noticed the tiny details, the way a spider web in the corner, usually unseen, now shimmered like silver threads in the light, the smooth, round edges of the small stone on his side table, polished by the sun's gleam. This deep feeling of calm made him sigh, a long, soft sigh that wasn't sad at all, but full of contentment. He felt completely at ease, as if every muscle in his body had let go of all its tension. His shoulders were relaxed, his hands rested easily on the chair arms, and his feet, propped up on a small stool, felt light. The sun seemed to wash over him, cleaning away any stresses, leaving him feeling refreshed and light. He imagined the sunbeams as little brushes, gently sweeping away all the tiny worries that might have gathered in his mind. He remembered a time when he was a little boy, and he would lie on the grass in the sun, just feeling its warmth. It felt the same now, that simple, pure joy of being bathed in sunlight. It was a feeling of being connected to something bigger and brighter, a feeling of being perfectly where he was meant to be. The sun's light filled every corner of the room, chasing away any shadows, making the whole space feel open and airy. It made his small living room feel big and full of happy light. He shifted slightly in his chair, not because he was uncomfortable, but just to feel the different ways the sun touched him. He turned his head a little, letting the warm light fall directly on his face. It felt like a gentle kiss from nature. He could almost hear the sun whispering, "All is well." And indeed, all felt well. More than well. It felt perfect. He knew these moments were precious, rare gems in the rush of life. He wanted to hold on to this feeling, to let it sink deep into his heart and stay there. The light stretched further across the floor, reaching almost to the edge of his rug. Soon, the sun would start to dip lower, and the golden light would turn a soft orange, then pink, before fading into twilight. But for now, it was still bright and strong, a golden river flowing into his room. He took another sip of his lemonade, feeling the last bit of ice clink softly against the glass. The drink was still cool, still refreshing, and the sun was still shining, bright and warm. He was truly, deeply happy and relaxed, lost in the beauty of a simple, sunlit afternoon. His hand, holding the glass, was steady, completely at peace, just like the rest of him. Mr. Henderson felt completely, utterly, and wonderfully calm. His hand, holding the cool glass, was steady and sure, a perfect picture of peace. The golden sunbeams still danced on his rug, and the gentle warmth still kissed his skin. He was just about to take another slow, happy sip of his lemonade when something changed. It wasn't a loud noise, or a sudden gust of wind. It was much quieter than that. Suddenly, a shadow fell over him. It wasn't the soft, dancing shadow of a tree branch, or the playful shadow of a passing cloud. This shadow was big and dark, cutting off the bright sunlight that had been warming his face just moments before. It felt cold, like a sudden shiver running down his spine, even though the room was still warm. The cheerful golden light on the floor seemed to dim just where the shadow touched, turning a little gray and sad. His peaceful moment was suddenly not so peaceful anymore. He didn't move at first. He just felt the cool darkness on him, a strange, heavy blanket covering his sunny happiness. His eyes, which had been half closed in comfort, opened slowly, blinking a few times. He looked up, his calm feelings beginning to fizzle out like tiny bubbles in his lemonade. He wondered if a big cloud had just covered the sun, but the rest of the room was still bright. This shadow was right over him. As he looked up, his eyes had to adjust from the bright sun to the sudden gloom above him. He slowly made out a shape. It was tall, standing very close to his chair, blocking all the light from that side. He lifted his head a little higher, his eyes traveling up. First, he saw long, dark hair, like a waterfall of night that fell over one shoulder. Then, he saw a face. It was her. Her name was Lily. She stood there, tall and quiet, right beside his comfy chair, where no one ever stood without being invited. Her face was not smiling, but it held a strange, knowing look, like she had a secret that only she understood. Her eyes, which were usually a soft brown, seemed darker now, almost black in the sudden shadow she cast. They looked straight into his, like two dark stones. She wore a simple dark dress that made her seem even taller, almost like a grown-up lady, even though Mr. Henderson always thought of her as a young girl. She didn't say a word at first, just stood there, letting the heavy quiet fill the space between them. The gentle ticking of the clock suddenly sounded very loud in the stillness. Mr. Henderson felt a knot begin to form in his stomach. The easy, relaxed feeling he had moments ago was completely gone, replaced by a prickle of worry. He didn't like Lily standing there like that, so close, so quiet. It felt like she was waiting for something, or that she had something very important, and perhaps not very good, to tell him. Then, slowly, Lily leaned down. She leaned very close to him, so close that he could smell a faint scent of something sweet, like wildflowers, from her hair. Her face was now right next to his ear, her dark hair brushing his cheek ever so softly. It was an invasion of his peaceful space, a closeness that felt wrong and too sudden. He could feel her warm breath, soft and quiet, against his skin. His heart, which had been beating so gently, began to tap a little faster, like a drum starting to pick up speed. He could feel his own pulse in his ears. He wanted to ask her what she wanted, to tell her to step back, but he couldn't. His throat felt tight. He just stared straight ahead, watching the last of the sunbeams on the far wall, trying to pretend he was still calm. But he wasn't. Not anymore. Not with Lily so close, her shadow so dark, and that strange look in her eyes. Then, she whispered. Her voice was very, very soft, like a secret wind blowing just for him. Only he could hear it. It was a sound that seemed to snake its way right into his ear, past his brain, and straight into the center of his chest. The words were few, but they hit him harder than any shout ever could. One whispered sentence later, his hand shook. It wasn't just a little tremble, it was a strong, sudden quake that ran through his whole arm, all the way to his fingertips. The cold glass of lemonade, which had felt so steady and comforting just moments before, suddenly felt too heavy, too slippery. His fingers, which had been so sure, lost their grip entirely. The glass slipped from his fingers. It didn't fall gently. It tumbled, spinning in the air for a second, catching the light in a final, desperate sparkle. Then, with a loud, sharp crash, it hit the wooden floor. Ice cubes scattered like tiny white dice, rolling in every direction. The pale yellow lemonade splashed out, spreading across the floor in a sticky, quickly growing puddle. Shards of glass, sharp and shiny, lay everywhere, glinting dangerously in the remaining sunlight. Mr. Henderson stared at the mess, his mouth slightly open. The noise of the breaking glass echoed in the quiet room, a harsh, ugly sound that broke all the peace. He felt a terrible shock, like a cold hand had just squeezed his heart. His eyes, wide with surprise and something else he couldn't quite name, slowly moved from the broken glass back to Lily's face. She just smiled. It wasn't a kind smile or a happy smile. It was a thin, tight smile that didn't reach her eyes. Her dark eyes still held that knowing look, but now there was something else in them, too, a flicker of triumph, like she had just won a game he didn't even know they were playing. Her smile made the cold shadow around him feel even colder. Then, she spoke again, her voice still soft, but this time not a whisper, just a low, clear tone that carried in the sudden silence. She repeated the words she had just whispered, but now they sounded like a statement, a declaration, sharp and final. Told you. I'm legal now.